The United States just lost to Panama away, and in the 4-year anniversary of CUVA, it seems like we just haven't learned. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and today we have another episode of 7 Things We Learned. From US Men's National Team 0, Panama 1, this is a series we do every single day following a US Men's National Team match, and obviously there's more things than 7 things that we learned from this match, and usually, so comment whatever you learned down below. I'm going to limit myself to 7, and trust me, I will be very, very negative in this video. So if you can't deal with that, leave an angry comment down below, and you'll probably feature on my next apology video, just like the one I uploaded yesterday. That said, guys, go hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Let's play the intro, and let's start with lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 is something that many of us knew already, and probably not even a lesson for this game. It just seemed like now it's more confirmed than ever, and I'll tell you guys why, is that there's clearly an MLS bias in the US men's national team. What do I mean by that? Do I mean the USSF and MLS select the players and tell Greg who to play? No. That definitely doesn't happen. But there's a pressure for Greg probably to play specific players. I don't know from who, I don't know from when, and I don't know how much it plays a role on his selection. But it does seem like he does have his favorites for some reason. And I'm not talking about MLS players like Miles Robinson, Ricardo Pepi, Matt Turner. I'm talking about those MLS lifers like Leggett, Roldan, Kellen Acosta, Zardes, even Walker Zimmerman to a certain extent, even though he had a good game once again, just like he had against Jamaica. And well, we even got a quote from Norwich coach as well. Norwich coach where Josh Sargent play, and quote him on this when he was explaining why Josh Sargent was not called up for the US men's national team, which he was actually happy about it. So Daniel Fark, the coach of Norwich, said, "As far as I'm aware, it was due to a wish and the will of the US team that they wanted to focus for these games on players who play in the USA and in their league." Okay, we heard it from him. You can also check out Johan Cruyff's biography when he talks about Jurgen Klinsmann as well. He's mentioned that as well, that Jurgen Klinsmann had to call MLS players from specific franchises. Guys, look, it's real. I'm not saying they force him to call anyone, but the bias is real, and if you don't believe in it, I think you're just in denial at this point. Lesson number 2 is that it's time to bring our secret weapon, Break Shea. No, I'm joking. That's not lesson number 2. I'm sorry. I just needed to lighten the mood. I seem too serious throughout the video. Lesson number 2 is about Shaq Moore. And I'm just saying, Shaq Moore is not US men's national team level. His crossing ability is limited. On defense, he was very, very weak in this game. And if you don't believe me, go back to Gold Cup and watch the knockout round matches. He wasn't good after the group stage. He was very limited after that. And again, in more competitive matches, Shaq Moore hasn't delivered. Listen, there's a reason why he is benched at La Liga 2. We had better options, but he brought Shaq Moore, and he played Shaq Moore. Not that he's the one to blame, but you guys know what I mean. Lesson number 3 is another one that's a confirmation, is Greg Berhalter's in-game management is still very poor, right? Sometimes he misleads us to think he's good based on the Honduras game, Jamaica game, but then he goes back to being Greg. And we saw this at this match once again. His in-game management was bad. Adams for Yunus Musa when Acosta was the main problem on the build-up. Yunus Musa honestly was one of the very few that could progress the ball despite not having the best game as well. And also he sees Matthew Hoppe as a winger, but he plays Roldan late in the game instead of Hoppe. That was one of our bright spots in Gold Cup. And then he also does the sub late in the game from DeAndre Edlin for Shaq Moore, which honestly is just 6 for half a dozen. Doesn't change the game. Having players like Luca De La Torre on the bench, Matthew Hoppe. So, again, just confirmation. Lesson number 4, it's in regards to his player selections, right? What I've been noticing about Greg for a while, and I've been holding on it, is that he doesn't like midfielders that take risks. Creative midfielders. He likes midfielders that play it safe. And a great example is Sebastian Leggett. Leggett likes to pass it sideways and backwards and likes to hold possession. Midfielders that take risks, Luca De La Torre tries through balls, will lose the ball more often. Another example of that was Eric Williamson, right? Didn't get as many opportunities even though he should have. Now he's injured, obviously. But he doesn't like these players that are creative, right? And that's a problem with Greg. And we got the confirmation once again based on player selection. That's how he likes to play. And that's also one of the reasons why I believe Giovanni Reyna hasn't played central. Giovanni Reyna won't protect the ball as much as certain players will pass it back. He will risk passes and probably lose it more. Which in soccer, losing the ball is okay. You need to take risks to create, to score. Can't play it safe all game. Okay, before we go to lesson number 5, please hit the like button if you haven't already in this video. It really helps the channel. So if you kindly could, make sure to hit the like button. So lesson number 5 is something that should be just common knowledge at this point. And look, I'm not asking for Pifak or Sargent over Ricardo Pepi. I'm not. But to me, it's more clear than ever. Gyasi Zardes shouldn't be in the US men's national team. He was poor. He was poor against Jamaica, missing 4 great opportunities, should have had at least 1 goal. And I know the whole argument of his XG stats, which most people don't really know how to analyze that. But anyhow, again, against Panama, he was terrible on offense. And then he also scored an own goal. I'm sorry. But Pifak, Sargent, Hoppy, Ricardo Pepi, all should be ahead of Gyasi Zardes. And it's a shame that he's still in the US men's national team and even playing a lot. Lesson number 6 is that weak opponents can very often mislead us. Yes, and I'm talking about the Jamaica game. The Jamaica game made us believe that Greg was learning, that he was going to put the right lineup, he was going to do the right thing, and he's seen it, but clearly he hasn't. He's still trusting his favorites. He's still not putting up the best lineup every single time. His rotation is weird. His in-game management was poor. But the Jamaican side is so poor. They have a gym teacher as a coach. They're missing their main players. And then we get a 2-0 home win. And many started to believe that Ariola had a good game, that Greg knew what he was doing. And that wasn't the case. And I did give props to Greg for that game. And honestly, his lineup in that game, most of it was near perfect, besides Zimmerman and Chris Richards, even though Zimmerman had a good game as well. Paul Ariola, and we'd probably prefer Tim Weah. But overall, Greg hasn't learned, and that win against Jamaica misled us, just like some of the trophies over the summer also made us believe that Greg knew what he was doing. I don't think he does. Which leads me to lesson number 7, right? Exactly what I was saying, that I don't know if Greg knows what he's doing because he lacks logic. Yes. And let me try to explain with a few examples. So let's go back to the Jamaica game. He subs off Ricardo Pepi, and in the post-match at 11 Yanks, we were even defending Greg that he probably took off Pepi to start him on Sunday, which the kid could have had a hat-trick against Jamaica, would have been amazing. But now we saw that he didn't take Pepi early out for Zardes to start Pepi on Sunday because Pepi didn't start. So that didn't make any sense for me. Now let's go to example number 2, Walker Zimmerman. He wasn't even in the roster, so he wasn't in Greg's plans. And then Greg calls him in to replace, I believe it was Tim Ream actually that he's replacing, not John Brooks, Tim Ream that he replaced. And then Zimmerman starts both games, plays a full 90, and was even the captain. This guy wasn't even your plan. Why is he starting? Why is he the captain? Why wasn't he in the original roster? And to be fair, Zimmerman was better than Mark McKenzie this game that kept giving the ball away, but do you guys see the lack of logic? Last but not least, the other one I want to point out is that Paul Ariola played a full 90 minutes against Jamaica and Arison left early. If rotation was his reasoning for many of the excuses he had for the starting 11 against Panama, why was Paul Ariola starting? If rotation is the reason for Pepi being out instead of Zardes or whatever it is, why is the guy that played a full 90 minutes and is injury prone starting again? And what's funny about Paul Ariola is a lot of the guys that defend him, every time they compliment Paul Ariola, notice that the compliments require Paul Ariola not touching the ball. And those were just 3 examples that I had of his lack of logic. And I could give more. If you know any and remember any time Greg didn't have logic, comment it down below. All right, everyone. Sorry if I was overly negative. Regardless of that, make sure to hit the like button so we can get more USMNT supporters here. Thank you very much, everyone, for all the support. The game on Wednesday against Costa Rica is a must win. If we lose or we tie, we finish 6 games with 8 or 9 points. And that is very worrisome in regards to qualifying to Qatar. With that said, everyone, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget, the USMNT versus Costa Rica match preview should be out tomorrow on Tuesday, one day before the game. I'll be doing my best to stay motivated, and I'll be doing a watch along for that game as well. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and if you can, have a great day.